Suppose Alcatraz was more than just a prison. It was the center of a far more sinister plot. Recent discoveries of secret passages, chambers, and documents reveal a disturbing past of covert operations and espionage. This research suggests that Alcatraz was more than simply a place to lock up violent offenders. It might have played a significant role in covert missions and undiscovered plots as well. Would it be possible to unveil the island's darkest secrets at last? Come explore the untold tales of Alcatraz with us. They may challenge your preconceived notions. The Secret Cavern Beneath Alcatraz. The wind around San Francisco Bay was brisk, cold, and unpredictable, as was typical. Many sightseers explored Alcatraz, pausing to snap photos and pointing out the various prison cells. At what was once a prison, but is now a museum, life went on as usual. However, in other sections of the building, employees were preparing for something else behind closed doors. It was not surprising that the museum was expanding until they discovered a wall that did not conform to any of the initial blueprints. A small, suspicious hole in the wall was noticed by the team. It appeared as though someone had attempted to swiftly seal off something using a handful of loose rock. There was a shaft of darkness that led down behind the false wall. Decades had passed without it being exposed to the elements. None of the earlier plans or blueprints included it. The most comprehensive records kept by the prison did not even mention it. They initially speculated that it might be an empty sewage line or repair tube. However, following the FBI's acquisition of the site following notification of the situation, things swiftly transformed. The tube was of high quality and rather old. Concealed behind numerous obstacles, it was constructed with greater strength and featured internal steel brackets. It was obviously not an accident that this was constructed without considering the rest of Alcatraz. As the agents continued to dig, it appeared even more implausible. Unlike most prisons, this one had a specific plan and set of safety regulations. It made sharp turns and passed through narrow, silent corners. None of the other well-established pathways within the prison were connected to it. Someone obviously wanted to keep it hidden so no one would find it. There were no indications of regular use, and neither light nor air flowed. At the base of the main shaft, the FBI discovered a locked iron door that was built into the wall. It was undamaged despite the rust. The stone was carefully compacted to conceal the heavy-duty hinges. Prior to opening it, the spies had a strong suspicion that something was amiss. The relative silence behind the door gave the impression that something important had been kept hidden for quite some time. The fact that the cave contradicted what was previously known about the prison's history shocked everyone. This wasn't constructed in the 1930s or 1940s like the rest of the building. Specialists who examined the materials found plate numbers dating back to the early 1920s on some of the steel. In other words, the construction of the tunnel may have begun prior to Alcatraz's official designation as a federal prison. A terrifying question arose in my mind as a result: who or what created this? Not a single escape report mentioned it, which only added to the mystique. This is unrelated to the 1962 infamous evasion of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. Nobody had ever heard of or written about a tunnel this deep and intricate before. It was either completely unknown or someone preferred to keep it under wraps. Which one was worse remained unclear. The realization that it was more than a path, a strategy, made the whole thing much more terrifying. It was obvious that a lot of skill went into the construction. Indications of deliberate concealment included layered stone walls and packed mud for soundproofing. Whoever dug this cave wanted to do more than just escape. They wanted to vanish. They had been successful thus far. Secret operations during the Cold War began to raise suspicions within the government. It turned out that Alcatraz was strategically located to provide excellent views of both marine and urban traffic as well as military lines. If the tunnel was constructed prior to 1934, it may have served as a conduit for clandestine projects or early intelligence agencies. The details surrounding private construction on Alcatraz in the 1920s are murky, although they are mentioned in certain records from the National Archives. It left room for inquiries, but not too much. The seeds of a new concept were planted. It is possible that the tube had nothing to do with escaping. Perhaps those who weren't incarcerated but needed a secret hideout constructed it. There was speculation that it may have served as a cover for illicit activities, state secrets, or even the transfer of weapons. Although it may sound far-fetched, the tunnel's layout gave the impression of careful planning rather than a hasty assembly. One of the most disturbing aspects was how accurate it was. Skillful planning, precise cutting and sealing completed the job. We didn't wait until the last minute to do the dig. Devotion, effort, and capital were required. This indicated that either someone in a position of authority was aware of it or chose to do nothing to prevent it. It went unmentioned for decades, though. It remained a mystery to the cleaning staff. No inmate was able to locate it. It had been non-existent up until this point. Reason enough for the FBI's apprehension upon seeing it, for both its physical nature and the significance of its meaning. In this cave, there was no way out. It belonged to an untold tale. A tale that was sealed and abandoned beneath the watchful eye of one of America's most notorious prisons. However, things are improving now, and the next thing we know, it might alter our entire understanding of Alcatraz. A room with unopened, rusty doors conceals terrifying symbols. Is the secret passageway leading to Alcatraz the prison's greatest mystery? When the FBI agents burst through the tunnel, they were completely unprepared for what they found. One obstacle they had to overcome was a rusty steel door that was partially buried in the rock. It required some effort to open. They required welding equipment to penetrate the corrosion layers. Upon doing so, they beheld what appeared to be a long-lost sealed world. The subsequent room appeared deserted, as if time had neglected to advance to it. There was meticulous organization throughout the room. Old yellowing papers were stored in boxes along the walls. The old papers shifted the air around the boxes, causing their sides to crumble. In one corner of the room sat an antiquated radio system that saw no action. It appeared to be in a state of readiness for future use. Maps of the bay currents were placed on top of a makeshift table. The maps appeared to have been created by hand rather than a computer because their edges were curving. The most peculiar thing, though, might have been the 3 weathered cots jammed into one corner. They weren't haphazardly assembled, rather they were carefully planned to give the impression that someone had lived there for quite some time, perhaps months. Next were the clocks. At precisely 2:17 in the morning, 2 of them were motionless, their hands covered in a heavy dust. Why now? Was it merely a coincidence, or were they attempting to convey a message? The eerie stillness of the room made it seem as though the clocks were signaling more than simply the passage of time. They seemed to be harbingers of some impending or past event. It might be an indication. An anonymous FBI agent later discussed the findings' peculiarity in leaked memos. This already tense situation was heightened when the agent said they were ready for someone. It wasn't merely a forgotten storage room. It had the air of a command center, but one that had seen heavy use for quite some time and had been purpose-built. Did famous people have a special way out, or was there a more sinister, shadowy force at work? Assassins in the era of Cold War? Was there some clandestine military operation? No matter what it was obviously serious business. The forensics team wasted no time getting to work. Upon arrival, they took a closer look at the air, the tracks, and anything else they could discover. Their findings were peculiar. Items ranged in age from 1949 to much earlier. This was no random assortment of found objects. Rather, it was an artfully curated assortment of artifacts. each with its own unique history. However, crypto tools developed for the CIA in the 1960s were the most startling discovery. Finding such tools anywhere was unusual, and doing so in Alcatraz was even more so. What are these crucial items doing in a long-forgotten chamber beneath a famous prison? Additional queries surfaced as the investigation delved further. It appeared like the intruder was up to much more than simply escaping from prison thanks to the coding tools. There was more to these tools than meets the eye. They served a covert purpose as well. Were the prison guards secretly planning something else? In the presence of those who believed they were safe, were inmates collaborating with the government to construct a clandestine network? Alternately, did influential individuals within Alcatraz use their position to bolster other factions? The finding of these implements sparked a novel concept. Perhaps the tunnel served as a pathway to a far more significant destination than merely evading capture. It may have been more about bringing something in than leaving. It was well known that organizations other than the CIA made use of encryption devices. Behind the scenes, other nations, criminal organizations, or private individuals may have been trying to alter events in ways nobody could have predicted. Could spies have left their belongings in safety at Alcatraz, or was it used for testing purposes? Who was in control if that is so? Who had a hidden agenda, the government or someone else? Operation Warden's Shadow. The most notorious American prisoners of conscience have long been associated with Alcatraz. However, behind its negative reputation, something far darker may have been happening. A covert program known as Project Warden's Shadow was recently uncovered by researchers who combed through old government records dating back to 1968. This alleged program aimed at controlling and manipulating high-risk inmates was overseen by the DOJ with CIA approval. However, as additional information becomes available, there are those who believe the hidden passageway may have played a significant role in this clandestine undertaking, designed to accomplish unexpected goals. Keeping lawbreakers in check wasn't Project Warden's Shadow's only objective. The program apparently accomplished much more than that, according to declassified documents. It centered on subjecting inmates to extreme psychological stress in order to use them as naive subjects for covert experiments in spying and other forms of psychological manipulation. The project also included the collection of data on inmates, some of whom were suspected of having connections to organized crime. It was the location of the event, though, that was the most shocking aspect. Because of its location, which was off the coast but near vital naval lines, Alcatraz was considerably more significant than it appeared at first sight. It was long believed that Alcatraz's location was merely a perk of having criminals locked up there. However, what if the locals were unaware of the island's true strategic significance? If the FBI's claims are accurate, the tunnel might have been a covert passageway constructed by government officials with knowledge of how to escape in the event of a national catastrophe. If the tunnel was indeed a component of Project Warden's Shadow, then its meticulous concealment and absence from any prison or escape plans would make perfect sense. If necessary, this tunnel could have been used to swiftly remove high-level agents and prisoners from the island. In 1962, when the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris were plotting their infamous escape, could they have discovered this hole? New details regarding the escape plans suggest this might not have happened at random. Thanks to this secret route, it's possible that not even the prison guards were aware of an exit from the island. Maybe the escape wasn't so much about utilizing the familiar tubes and pipes as it was about capitalizing on an undiscovered system. What if these inmates were planning to find a covert exit that no one was supposed to discover, capitalizing on their knowledge of the prison's layout? The case has become even more mysterious as a result of conversations with former guards from the 1950s and 1960s. Strange things occurred during their shifts, particularly at night, and many of them remember them. Unusual noises heard beneath the floors that did not fit the profile of typical jail operations were reported by several inmates. A guard from the 1960S recalled a terrifying conversation he had with his supervisor. "Don't inquire about the contents beneath laundry block C," was advised to him precisely. What might be concealed beneath that surface? Was it a component of the clandestine operation unfolding before their very eyes? Our understanding of Alcatraz's history is drastically altered by the possibility of an underground system that functioned undetected by the jail staff. After all this time, it's clear that the island served a purpose beyond housing criminals. The tunnel may have been constructed to assist the government in carrying out covert operations. If Project Warden's shadow was indeed an element of the prison's clandestine operations. The massive scope of the operation gives the impression that Alcatraz was more than meets the eye. These could have been secret locations to store sensitive information or perilous escape routes for intelligence agents. Because of its relative isolation and relative lack of danger, it may have served as a base for clandestine operations. Secret operations would have run smoothly there during the Cold War era. The tube itself, however, raises more questions than it solves. Was its construction an attempt to conceal government projects, or did it evolve over time to fit into a larger, undisclosed plan? Is there another possible use for it? For example, a way out, a control room, or what? The truth about Alcatraz is turning out to be far more convoluted and concealed than anyone had imagined. More than simply a prison break, this is the tale of a hidden conspiracy with implications well beyond the island's renowned fortifications. Did the 1962 Alcatraz escape have a secret contingency plan? Did someone build a secret passageway or hide some other way out? Escape via an unknown means. A wild new theory regarding the infamous 1962 Alcatraz escape emerged after the discovery of the secret tunnel. Who knows if the escape strategy wasn't exactly what it seemed to be. Supposedly, in order to cross the perilous San Francisco Bay, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers constructed a raft out of old raincoats. However, with the discovery of the tunnel, it appears that this was merely a minor component of the escape plan. The escapees could have avoided the perilous water by taking a hidden route off the island if they had been aware of this tunnel. Although he was a member of the escape plot, Alan West was the only prisoner to make it out alive. Could it be that his escape was always predetermined? He might not have been aware of this secret passage. Other escapees may have led him astray, or he may have been intentionally omitted from the plot due to his lack of trustworthiness. Because of his reputation for eccentric behavior, West was actually considered somewhat of a wild candidate. The evaders may not have trusted him sufficiently to reveal their true intentions. Given that Morris and the Anglin brothers vanished without a trace after the event, this would clarify why West was left to handle the aftermath alone. A disturbing technical analysis of the newly discovered tunnel reveals that it would have exited beneath the rocky shoreline, hidden from the view of coast guards and other security personnel. Those on the raft who were able to get away would have done it incognito, evading the open water that posed such a threat to their escape.